Oh man. Hello, hello, hello. We're finally here, guys. We are finally here. I apologize for keeping it late. You know, this happens. This happens sometimes. Client calls run over, and I'm dealing right now with something that's just driving me crazy. I mean, I'm at the shore. It's the end of the season. Okay, I closed up the house in the next week, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's not summer weather; it's fall, so it's high 60s, low 70s. But there's like this, they've got these landscaping crews going around, these landscaping crews, and they're not doing anything. They just have these blowers. Maybe you can still hear it in the background, but literally they have like these leaf blowers. There's no leaves, and they're just going around blowing dust everywhere. That's all they're doing. It is like the most. One guy, I was sitting on the porch, and he blew all the dust onto the porch into my face. I'm like, I don't. I mean, I guess I understand that they need to try to wrap up the work while they can still get some because the season's going to end, and maybe they're running through Columbus Day. So, but man, it is like yeah. See, here we go again. They just got some more of it. They're not doing anything. They're just creating a lot of noise. Anyway, I'm sorry. I have to just how to get off my chest. How to get off my chest. Little. Look, yeah. Look at this. Look at this. There's nothing. It's. He's not even doing anything. He's just doing it for the sake of doing it. Just fun for him. He just enjoys it. He likes to torture me. All right. So before we get into this, it's a psyop. It's a psyop. I'm being tracked. I'm being tracked right now. Harassed. They're harassing me, just like they're harassing Bat. No, we have to start with the wine. Now, gotta start with the wine here. So I feel like we've got two things here. I feel like with one of these, I might have to return to it. I might have to amp it up a bit because I'm doing a Manzanilla sherry and I'm doing a Rueda. Okay, now Rueda. I'll start with the Rueda because I want to get to the Manzanilla next. There's some interesting stuff with this. The Rueda. This is a very very simple. Well, I don't want to discredit it, but it's a relatively simple white grape that comes from right here. By the way, I'm sorry. Romeo's real. I just we're gonna do Ribera del Duero and Toro next time, but I'm gonna get the whites out of the way. So we're doing Rueda. Rueda was a region in Spain. This is really overlooked. It actually used to use this grape called Palomino Fino for the most part, which is the grape in the sherry. But and that used to make actually sherry-like wines. The place got decimated by phylloxera in the early 1900s, late 1800s, and it wasn't until later on in the 20th century that it kind of had this revival under the grape Viura, also known as Macabayo. And this is the same grape that was also found in white Rioja. Now, in contrast to white Rioja, this is made in a very clean style. So it's usually half Verdeo, another white grape, and half Viura. And I haven't really had a lot of Rueda, so to be honest, I think this one actually might be mostly Verdejo. Oh, look at that! I fucked up, guys. There's no Viura in this one. Well, whatever. Verdeo is really nice. It's really nice, but in general, in Rueda, it can be a mix of the two things. So, really, just this pretty nice white wine for the country. A lot of Spain gets very hot. This area has some altitude. No, I don't research wine daily. I have a degree in it, so I mean before these things, I do a little refresher. I take a little refresher, but I pick the wines based on regions I knew were kind of fun to do in the country. So it smells great. You get actually a lot of creaminess on this, which is interesting because really, really rich and creamy. It could have been the fast. I lost 10 pounds. And yes, that post is coming out. I just really wanted to make it good. And I got really tied up. I had to write two speeches at the 21 convention and 22 convention. And guys, when you write a speech, it's like writing a blog post. and it's like then you have to rehearse it. Um, I usually try to rehearse it at least once to make sure that I have the structure of it correct. So the good news is that those speeches will be turned into blog post variants too. It's going to be like I know there's a little bit of a lag, but it's going to be like a waterfall of content when it comes out. So just bear with me on it. But I lost 10 pounds and I've maintained 5 of those pounds, and I feel great. I feel lighter. Um, I feel great. But um, so this wine smells really well made. There's a little bit of creaminess, a lot of the sort of just like I would say like red apples versus green apples. It's not super tart smelling, and some a little bit of lemon lime here too. It's really this is a really really great wine to serve like for people just casually. The rate is not very expensive. I can't recall the exact price point, but it's definitely around 15, 10 to 15. Not a pricey wine. This is just it's really really well made. It's not special, okay? The way that you can kind of determine a wine if it's really in a high tier, it's going to have like three like characteristics that when I say three characteristics, I mean like a primary fruit, you're going to get like a secondary oak characteristic, and then you're going to get a tertiary characteristic which you would get from aging. So, and there would maybe be some earthy undertones or something like that. This has two. It has two characteristics. It's got some creaminess, which is like oak or malolactic. In this case, I think it's probably more malolactic, a little bit of malolactic, which gives it a little bit of that creamy texture. And yeah, it's got a couple of fruits, so it's pretty good. Really simple white wine is going to have like one thing, like Vino Verde, which we'll have at some point. Um, Literally just like a little bit of lemon spritzer is what you're looking at with that. Okay, so we got our Verdejo, and then we've got sherry. Now, I want to really make sure here, and this is one of the things I feel like I might have to just add another whole section because I feel like we're not doing. If I want to make this a proper course for you guys, I feel like I'm not doing it justice. Okay, I feel like I'm not doing it justice. Sherry is a very. I feel bad for sherry. Okay, I feel bad for sherry. Sherry is a completely unique kind of wine. The only wines that are really like it are like maybe I'm wrong about this, but to my understanding, the only wines really like it outside of Spain are the Savagnin wines in the Jura in France. Okay, sherry is a white wine. It's made from Palomino Fino, which remember in Rueda, that was the grape that used to be pretty predominant. But Palomino Fino, it's very good for sherry. It's not really good for a lot of still wines. But sherry is really, really impressive. So like champagne, sherry is a white wine on limestone. So it's kind of like, white on white crime, right? Something like that. It is, and it goes through a really interesting system called a Solera. I'm generalizing because there's a lot of specific types of sherry, which is why I feel like maybe I'd make a bigger section on this. I just got a Manzanilla. So Manzanilla is a very light and dry sherry. It's only 15%. Remember, sherry is a little bit of a fortified wine. So sherries get up there. They're not like ports, but they're going to get up to as high as maybe 19%, usually closer to like 17. But the Fino sherries and the Manzanilla sherries, which are they're very similar. Manzanilla is in Sanlúcar, which is a separate location, and Fino is in Jerez. So I can show you on the map here. This is a little bit of what it looks like, little grapes. It's all around Andalusia, so far, far, far south of Spain. So you can see it's right around Cadiz. And so you can see here, you have Sanlúcar, a different town, and you have Jerez, okay, all around Cadiz. Now, Manzanilla. or these sherries. So they go through this thing called a Solera system. And Solera systems are really, really interesting. I'm going to see if I can find it in the book so I can give you an image. It'll be helpful for you to understand it. But the difference with sherries is that with a regular wine, you have a barrel, right? And you have a vintage. But you don't have that with sherry. With sherry, you have a series, all the years are blended together. And so you have all these barrels that are sort of stacked on top of each other. And when you bottle, you take it from the very bottom of the system. And then you put the new wine of the new vintage in the top, and they all blend together, with the bottom being the most aged. And so it creates a consistent, so like you know what you're getting every single year. The thing that's really sad about sherry is that people are not really drinking it anymore. They don't really like it. And it's a really interesting and unique wine. And it's actually quite sophisticated. That's why I was thinking like maybe we should do like a specific class on sherries, because you have Manzanilla, you have Fino, you have Oloroso, you have Palo Cortado, you have Amontillado, I think, and when a mask would really work to keep unhealthy food. I don't even know what this is. Some weird comments here. And you have what is it? I was gonna say paid. I'm actually forgetting what it is. I was gonna say Pedro Jimenez, but I don't think that's right. I think that's a different kind. Oh, Bill, it is Pedro Jimenez. I'm right. It's Pedro Jimenez. That's a very, very sweet. It's more like that's more like a port or like a Madeira. But so there's a lot of variation. The problem is that not a lot of people drink it. And so the industry is sort of suffering. And you have this situation where they're producing some really, really good stuff, but people prefer to have something like, the Rueda. Prefer to have the Rueda because it's simple and, you guys got to understand with sherry, especially, the Manzanilla and the Fino, a lot of the main ones, what makes them they taste very, very different than wine because they're underneath a layer of yeast. I probably should have said that earlier because that's the main distinguishing factor. They have a little bit of fortified alcohol to it, but they are in, like, they have a layer of yeast on them. So they have this very, very yeasty, almost briny taste to them. But there's a lot of subtle flavors. The good news about people not caring about sherry so much is that the prices have dropped dramatically. So this Manzanilla, and this is a pretty standard brand. I think you have to go to a specialty shop to get some of the really niche and interesting sherry producers. But I mean, this was like less than $15. Okay, it's less than $15. Whereas I think years ago, that stuff would have gone for a lot more because it had prestige. Fortified wines in general are just getting hammered because people want to be able to drink more, and it's just a lot. It's a lot of alcohol, I have to admit. I mean, especially port. Like, I like a good port every now and then. Port will get you fucked up. When I was in middle school, only time I ever saw my dad ever get, like, he was puking at a family, like a relative's house because they had gone through a bottle of port. I mean, port will mess you up. And so any of these fortified wines will do it because you drink them like wine, but it's like, it adds up. The difference between 12, 13, 14% and like 17, 18, 19, like it's a big jump. All right, I don't know if I can find this Solera. I opened this Manzanilla last night because I wanted to celebrate. Our beautiful vice president. I wanted to celebrate our beautiful vice president's victory, and we'll talk about that. But just, I guess, a few notes on this. What you get from sherry is tons and tons of that yeasty. It's really brininess, right? It's called Flor is the yeast. It's called Flor. It's incredible stuff, and you also get a lot of apples. That's usually what you get for the basic ones. And then as you go through more, there's a lot of more delicate flavors that come out. So maybe I'll do, if you guys want to see a sherry class, maybe I'll get some more sherries and maybe we'll mix it up a bit. The other thing is, like, if I bring sherries out, like who's gonna drink it with me? You know, my family's kind of like, oh, I prefer to get the white wine. So it's like I'm just drinking the sherry, and the sherry is 15% at least. So, but I'll do it. I'll do it for you guys. You know, do it for the. Oh, here we go. Well, so they're not. There's no picture. There's no picture in the textbook, guys. So I'm sorry. But all right. Let me get this. I'm gonna get my notes up so we can start to talk about what's been going on. Big week. Big week. Okay. Now, you guys who've been watching this stuff for a while know that. I mean, none of this stuff is a surprise, and not even it's really a surprise coming out in October. I mean, there's been a couple times where we had the timeline off a bit. Didn't anticipate that the politicization of everything being shut down from May onward, rather than kind of ending in April. But for the most part, once that became apparent, it's like, oh, I guess this is all going to come out. I guess all the stuff is going to drop starting in October. That was the expectation. And it has not been a disappointment, guys. Since that first debate, it's not been a disappointment. Crazy stuff. All right. So, first things first. Let's talk about that first presidential debate. A lot of people, especially in my demographic, a lot of people in my demographic were a little bit, they were a little bit worried at the first debate because Trump was being a dick, right? He was being a dickhead to Biden. He was just swinging his dick around all over the stage. And, look, sometimes I admit, kind of like, Trump, sometimes I wish you're just a little more polished. Sometimes I wish that. But there's a lot of other things that, first off, it's just Trump's style. So you got to let people do their style. You can't try to fit them into a different kind of, if you're a brawler, you're not going to be so finessed. Okay. But second off, there's a lot of advantages to his style, and you really saw it in terms of the sub-communication in that debate. Nobody was not going to vote for Trump because he's a dick to people and who he interrupts. At this point, 2020 election, it's all built in. Okay, if you supported Trump in 2016 and you knew that was the case, you're not going to not support him in this election. But he was he was pointing out the bias because he was taking on 2 versus 1, and Biden just looked like shit. I mean, he looked like absolute shit. And the way this is going, it's like you're only going to have like women aged 20 to 40 in the upper middle class strata who are still going to, in a couple of their guys, right, who are a little bit more sensitive to it, who are not going to be voting for him. You saw on Telemundo, Hispanics 2-1 for him. Actually, last night with Pence, it was 3-1. I mean, Trump is like Codillo energy, right? He embodies so much of that brash Hispanic strongman kind of energy. And the reality is that he's not a Hispanic strongman or anything like that, but he just has so much like brash masculine energy, and that people who haven't been completely paused respond to that, and they see strength in him, and they love it. So we started off with this debate, which we know was a failure for them. Whatever we know was a failure because then they wanted to cancel all the other debates. They wanted to try to create all sorts of regulations that Trump couldn't interrupt anymore. And Trump comes out of that debate like super high energy, making fun of Wallace, making fun of everybody. Yeah, you could say it's some machismo. But, the thing about Trump is he really does it with people like, Biden's been a bully himself. People pointed out, if you looked at the debate with Paul Ryan back in 2012, and I remember that, he was the one who's like kind of a dick. And I want to also point out here, when you look at a lot of what's going on the left right now, they've got like their only response to things is this kind of like, oh, could you believe this guy? Oh. It's like, yeah, you're a corrupt piece of shit, and you broke all these laws. They're just like, like they don't have a response to it. They just put this stupid face on. That's like, oh, we're gonna scoff. We're scoffing at it. Kamala Harris was doing that last night, and she's extremely unlikable. So while Biden looked like a senile, completely weak, loser, Kamala Harris is just everybody hates her. Like everybody hates her, right? And so they've had two bad debates here. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Because what happens? So things aren't going too well in the debate for the left. They want to change all these things. And then what happens? What happens? Yeah, right? Right, the tax thing. Then what happens? What happens next? We have Trump gets COVID. Oh my God, Trump's got COVID. Everybody's panicked. The president's got COVID. He's got to get out, right? He's got to get out of the White House. He's got to go to the hospital. What's going to happen? Now, this is where we get interesting, when we can kind of play around. There's a couple things that could have been going on. So there is some speculation that there was actually a virus unleashed specifically, a strain of the virus specifically unleashed to the debate, and that it was like a kind of a targeted assassination situation, and to get a lot of people sick. I guess Big Dick Anon, I believe he may have said, I don't know if he said this, but some people were saying that maybe Biden had it too, but they weren't admitting it because he wasn't doing very well. I don't know. All that stuff is possible. Big Dick Anon did talk about how, there were those 2 Chinese agents on the shore in San Diego who were involved with it. I don't know about any of that. There's so much disinformation. Okay, there's so much disinformation. But what seemed very, very clear to me, I'm not ruling out that possibility, but it's a completely different narrative from another narrative. You can't really reconcile them well. It's a different narrative from another narrative that I feel like fits more, which is that there was some sort of situation with China, maybe on a more like national security level, which gives me a chance to do a little digression here. You guys remember that missile that was like 2 years ago or something? Maybe it was 3. I can't remember. I got so many flies in my drink. What is this? This is so rude. So let me get some protein, I guess. Whatever. Oh yeah, I definitely drank one of those. Okay. What was I saying here? What was I talking about? What was I just talking about? I was so focused on that fly. Right. Hawaii. Okay. You guys remember that missiles, like there's been a ballistic missile launch that's going on. People need to, like everybody needs to get in the shelter immediately. And then it was like, oh, it was a mistake. It was a helicopter that was picked up. Well, there's actually footage from that day of a missile being launched. It seems likely that China launched it. That's what it seems like. I think actually the picture is from China, that it was launched. It was launched. And we took it down. Space Force maybe took it down. Seems plausible. At that point, I'm not sure if Space Force had been disclosed. But let's be honest here. Just like, the Air Force didn't come from a non-existent Air Force. It came from the Army Air Force, right? A separate branch of the military. So you had, Trump was coming back from his world tour, and he was on Air Force One, right? So that's a really good point. Thank you for mentioning that. The missile was maybe going towards him. But the point is that there was a missile launch. It was taken out. Space Force has been around for a while. It's been built into the Air Force as a sub branch, And all we were doing is pulling a lot of this stuff out of secret programs. And, you know, there could be other things to this about where this technology come from, right? Where to come from. That's maybe one of the reasons it's been so kept under wraps, and we've only seen this, you know, retarded NASA, which is not really the full picture. But there was an attempt. Now, when Trump says he has COVID, you have, I forget the name of the planes, but they're the planes that are launched when you have to detect incoming missiles. Okay, and they all got sent out. And there was some stuff I read, and again, who knows how credible this is, that Trump was actually, this is like Russian intel allegedly, that Trump had been sent to the USS Eisenhower, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the aircraft carrier, in that he was like off the eastern seaboard in with near, you know, a nuclear like a nuclear shelter basically. And this was like a cover, right? During the Cuban Missile Crisis, of course, there was a cover. This is the thing. Like, I'm not saying this stuff is true, but I just want to like point out here how I don't want to be like mean. I don't want to be mean. Okay, I'm you know, I'm nice. I'm a nice guy, guys. I'm a nice guy. I don't want to be mean, but like, how do people just assume that Trump says he's one place and that's actually where he is? Now, I know that you can like take this to an extreme and like think everything that happens is completely made up, and I don't do that. But you know, you have to think a little bit deeper when you have everybody in his staff who had been tested prior to the debate says they have, you know, tested for COVID, no problems, and then after the debate, all of a sudden you have these planes being launched, and then Trump has COVID, his wife has COVID, every single important person in the military cabinet has COVID. You know what I mean? It's like every close advisor of Trump and his military staff, they all have COVID. Like, you have to just think for a second, like, how do we know he was even at Walter Reed? I mean, being real here, how do we know he was at Walter Reed? I saw some people who were looking at him in the car, and they were checking his hands and the veins. And I don't really know, you know, people check ears and people check hands and try to see, is it a body double? Is it a clone? I don't know if that stuff's true or not. But how do we actually know that he went to Walter Reed during that situation? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know where he went. It'd be very easy for them. You know, people were pointing out that the picture of him at Walter Reed, the video he had, or there were some pictures that were released. He had the same suit as he did, or the video, he had the same suit as he did when he was there in July. Well, yeah, this is the thing. Didn't he walk out the front door? But I guess the question here is not that there wasn't somebody there. The question is, was it a double? Right? That's the question. Was it a double, and was the actual Trump elsewhere? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But right now, what I see is two birds with one stone. I see a military operation that was going on. Yeah, he has a mask as well. I see a military operation going on. But I also see a second objective here. And it's very possible that it was planned. Yeah, people saw that too, right? And that looked like a boat. People were inferring that maybe that was a boat because of the sort of drift. People were also talking, though, how it was maybe CGI'd, or maybe it could have been a video that was pre-filmed. That's the reality, though. It could very easily have been completely CGI'd. We don't know. We don't know. And so they could have had some double walk out there with a mask, and how would anybody know the difference? There were 4 flies in that. 4 flies in that one. You know, after being in the wild, guys, nothing's phasing me. By the way, you better believe that when you're out there, like, I thought about eating some bugs. I was thinking about it. I was like, does it count as cheating on my fast if I eat stuff I find here? Well, I think next time I'm going to do that. But okay, anyway. But whether or not that was what was going on, whether or not that was the situation, we definitely know something else was accomplished. And this is why you have to ask, like, was it a planned thing? Was the whole thing planned? Was it making use of a good opportunity? To a certain extent, was everything planned? You know, if you look at looking glass technology, right? Looking glass technology. Maybe they know this stuff is going to happen, so they can plan to double up. But we know that Trump gets COVID, everyone's freaked out. What's going to happen to our beautiful president? What's going to happen to him? And then, on the third day, he rose. He goes into quote unquote, goes into Walter Reed with a black mask. 3 days later, he emerges with a white mask on the balcony of the White House, takes it off, and immediately starts tweeting out about how we shouldn't be afraid of COVID. We have all this incredible technology, medical things to beat it. Talk about persuasion. Talk about persuasion. Which, I mean, when I saw this, I was like, he is the most brilliant politician of our lifetime. Yeah, hero's journey. But I mean, how do you they're completely outflanked. And you know what I saw? I mean, when I felt it. Okay? No, it's not a closer race. I felt it. Okay? I really felt it. The debate, you could feel it building up after the debate. But after that COVID trick, it felt suddenly like the media had, like, they had lost a critical battle that they needed. Like, they had been holding a certain line. They were losing the war, but they had a certain position that still allowed them to do damage. And since then, they've lost it. They have had no response. They have no way to kind of keep people in fear at this point. They're throwing all sorts of things every day. There's something ridiculous. Oh, the Secret Service is jeopardized. This, he's Mussolini on the balcony. They're done. They're done. They lost a critical persuasion battle. And it feels now, guys, and you tell me if you feel it too, but now there's no fear in being a Trump supporter. I mean, I'm not saying go down to like some crazy, get involved with like a mob situation and, say I'm a Trump supporter. But it's like the silent majority is now no longer silent. That's what it feels like. It feels like now you can say that you support all this stuff with Trump and people can't really throw anything back at you. Because Trump got COVID and he's been far more active than Biden, who hasn't gotten it, right? Like the imagery, everything is just completely falling apart for them. They're done. They are really, really done. Yeah, Northern California, dude, in Jersey. I mean, I see some Biden stuff, but I see so much Trump stuff. So much Trump stuff. So we have really, I mean, it's mopping up operations at this point, guys. It's a nail in the coffin. Yeah, Minnesota will flip. And who knows what we're going to see? Who knows what else? I mean, this could really, really like get rough for them. And now Trump's declassifying all the files. Trump is declassifying the files, the Russia hoax. I've heard this. I heard this from some channelers. But there is a chance that Biden would have to drop out of the race by the end of it. And honestly, that may actually happen. At the way things are going. I mean, we'll see. We got some more stuff going on here. We got a couple more debates. But we are in for a roller coaster of a month, guys. I mean, I'm going to make sure that we're going to be doing these more often because it's going to be, the energy's too hot now. Like, I feel like it's been 1 week. And I feel like we could have done 3 Periscopes in this last week. Like, it's so much shit. Well, here's the reason I'm not lumping life savings on Trump. It has nothing to do with Trump winning. It has to do with election fraud, which I think is going to be dealt with for a Trump win. But I lost money in 2018 after I gained a lot in 2016. But in 2018, I didn't like. I went from being like from making money to losing money because I saw over like a week after the election, all of these races flipped. So I think that the fraud situation makes it risky to bet on specific political outcomes because Trump may win the election, but maybe the election is invalidated in a certain, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that could be going on. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but it's see, guys, this is annoying. Look at this. Look at this shit. There's a fly in the bottle. What am I supposed to do with that? That's not cool. It's rude. I gotta seal this stuff. I'm gonna try to get him out. I'm gonna try to drink him. Here we go. No. See, now I'm just gonna pour myself more wine. Can't get him. He's just gonna. I mean, I guess there are worse ways to die, right? I guess there are worse ways to die than drowning in a bottle of wine. Speaking of which, one of the big things I want to go into a whole bathtub of wine. I want to take a big bath in wine. I've been thinking about it. We got a big old-fashioned bathtub at the shore house. I think I might do it. Hey guys, I see a lot of stuff with the polls. Do not at all worry about the polls. The polls are ridiculous. The sample sizes for these polls are like sampled sometimes plus 13 Democrat. Okay, they are really, really bad polls. They're really, really bad. And from what I understand, the pollsters are mostly being paid off. A lot of them are being paid off to produce these things. And the reason is because the perception has to remain. I mean, on one hand, it could make some people complacent, whatever, but they are, they need to make it seem like it's close so that they can fuck with it. Okay. If they, like, the pollster stuff is designed to give room for the fraud. Okay. It's not a real representation. I don't, I mean, there's like 35% of the population, 40% even, who's still like totally on the left. Okay. Totally on the left. But the rest of the country is being sorted and it's like 60% go in that direction. And as things continue to happen, it's going to get worse and worse and worse for them. Yeah, there's also that. There's that financial stuff. So let me go look through this and see what other things I haven't mentioned, because there's just a lot. I was writing down so much stuff. Got my little list here. All right. Yeah, there was okay. So some other kind of things here. Yeah, another thing related to the debate was that there were some 4 assassination teams going after Trump. I don't know if that's true or not, but that would corroborate also with him going on the aircraft carrier to get away. I haven't seen Ali's video. What's the story? Anything good with it? Let me see here. So you guys remember the video, Paris Hilton, MK Ultra? Remember that? So she had some little thing on Instagram where she was like basically admitting to being MK Ultra and to have been abused by all these things, by all these people. It's like an admission of the grooming situation that happens with a lot of these celebrities. Yeah, so I did see some stuff about Parkinson's symptoms for Biden. Remember, we had similar stuff with Hillary. The question is it Parkinson's or is it Kuru? Right? Is it Kuru? Is it just simple Parkinson's, or is it Kuru, which you get when you eat the brains of dead people? It could be either of them, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a doctor. There's no question that Biden has some neurological issues. I mean, we actually even knew that beforehand because he's had, he's had aneurysms, brain aneurysms. His brain's, and he's actually a pretty retarded person. I mean, he's not smart. Probably like, he's just, I mean, Clarence Thomas video of him when like Joe Biden's talking about natural law. You and I know about this. Nobody else understands, but you and I understand. And they asked Clarence Thomas, like, what did you think when he was saying this stuff, he's like, I don't know what he was talking about. You know, it's like doesn't make any like. It's like I knew he was trying to bait me into something. But it's like it was talking nonsense, and that's what he does. He's a good bullshitter, or at least he was when he had his health. So it could be Parkinson's. I mean, fundamentally though, unfit to lead, unfit to lead. That's it. He's unfit to lead. But I'm really enjoying watching these propagandists squirm. I mean, they're just losing it. They're losing their mind. They are losing their mind here. Yeah, finished third to last in grad school. That was actually so funny during the debate when Trump was like trolling him on that stuff. I mean, some people are like, "This is really petty," but and it is petty in a certain sense. But with Trump style of just pure dominance and humiliation of opponents, it's like Trump doesn't like people talk about him. He's okay with getting in the mud. It's actually hilarious because Biden is stupid, and it's like a petty comment, but it's just his way of saying like, "Hey, dum dum, graduated last in your class at a state school. You know, I went to Wharton. You know, it's like it's you're not supposed to go there in sophisticated politics. But here's the thing, and I tell this to people in my sort of strata when they get upset. I just wish you'd be more polite. I'm like, why would you be polite to a criminal? There's no need to have any of this decorum with these people. Really, they have been able to manipulate the country because they act all polite. You know, you got Obama talking about how he's such a polite, reasonable individual. They're criminals, and they use this to manipulate the masses. And so I like that Trump, and I think everybody who likes Trump and understands this stuff understands that Trump humiliating them like that is not good for their playbook. Because one, they can't meet him on that level without looking really bad themselves and losing their politeness advantage. But two, he actually says things that are true about them that no one would talk about. And that's why they keep trying to shut him up at the debate. So he'll just keep creating tension. Like it was funny. Another part of the debate, which I just absolutely loved, like burst out laughing when it happened. You know, Joe Biden was talking and said number one about something. I forget even what the topic was. It was super boring. And Trump started talking, and then Joe Biden said number two, and they didn't say anything. It said number three, and Trump just very quickly said you were still on number two. Just like these little negs, and Biden's like, oh god, this guy, like just these little negs. It's like, yeah, you said number two, you didn't say anything though. Like you moved on to number three, you didn't say anything for number two. You got to go back to number two. Like just dominance plays, and especially because Biden's a bully himself, right? And you guys know this, right, about bullies. Is that real bullies? Trump isn't actually a bully. Trump has never bullied anybody who is weak and who was stood up for good things. He's never ever hurt people who were struggling, but he will beat the shit out of people who are in distortion. He will beat the shit out of people who have done bad things themselves. Biden's like, I want to take Trump around back and punch him. Well, go ahead and do it. No, you're all talk. It's the same thing with bullies in real life. They talk a really good game and they'll pick on people who are weaker. But when push comes to shove, I'll never forget this with a bully that I had growing up. And, you know, kind of wish I'd fought him. I didn't have that kind of upbringing. He turned out he's like huge dude. He's actually like last time I saw him, he was super nice and everything. But it's back in fifth grade, and he had been kind of like bullying me, and so I went to the teacher with it, and he just like I remember he cried so much. He had this big like snot hanging down to like his knee, pouring out of his. And I looked at him, and I was like, wow. You know, you never know what's going on in their home, whatever. That's like with a kid bully. But the thing is, like, they're so much weaker than they let on. They don't have a lot. They're not robust. So, okay. All right, I'll check some of these comments and then I'll keep going with this. Yeah, yeah, plagiarism, exactly. Yeah, 47 years versus 47 months. Uh, yeah, Trump's just great. I mean, Trump is like the great revealer. He forces everybody to reveal themselves. He's uncovering people's trauma, specifically around masculinity, and specifically with women. He's doing that, but he is the great revealer of everything, and it doesn't matter what he does. I'm sure there's going to be a D class bomb before the election. I think it's like the next debate. I mean, you saw what they're trying to do. They wanted to have a virtual debate, and now there's this whole thing. Like, are they going to be able to have a debate? Because maybe Biden called the bluff a bit and said, okay, then there won't be a debate. And so now it's like Trump wants to have it a week later. They were saying like we can't have the debate because of COVID fears because of Trump. It's just like ridiculous. Okay, so a couple other things. So yeah, very important to talk about Regeneron, which is an antibody treatment. Trump's comment the other day. Very, very interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting. Talked about Regeneron, wants to make it available to everybody, wants to make it free. Also mentioned the vaccines for people, although he really did it in like a perfect way. He said, oh, we're going to have a vaccine too. Everything's being held up just because of, politics. We're going to have the vaccine. If people want to have the vaccine, we're going to have that. But, these other things are just so much better. These therapeutics, they call them therapeutics. I think that they're cures, right? And Regeneron's saying, okay, well, we only gave it for him as a compassion basis. Yeah, he doesn't want vaccines, but this is the thing. People who are anti-vax are like, Trump was talking about having a vaccine. It's all a trap. It's all gonna. It's like, you guys you got to get out of this place of fear. You got to think clearly for a second. How on earth could Trump possibly say vaccines are bad? We don't want a vaccine for COVID. Like, could you think of anything more suicidal to say on a political level? And that's why, like, I'm happy that I'm smart enough to be able to appreciate what Trump is doing, but I'm not smart enough to be able to do what he's doing. People who say Trump is dumb, it's like, you are really a midwit. Like, if you take every single thing he says and you don't look at it in a broader context as like a strategy, so levels ahead. Exactly. He is so levels ahead. Like, I'm very, very grateful I can follow him and I can see it because I can appreciate it. You guys can appreciate it. Same deal. But like, yeah, no, Trump, dumb buffoon. He doesn't know anything. Trump's so stupid. Like, billionaire president. So stupid. So stupid. Meanwhile, what do? You work at Starbucks, which is okay. It's okay to work at Starbucks, but just saying, just making a point here. So, all right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and he's even admitted it. People have been sharing this thing that he had with, quoting, he had read Memories, Dreams, Reflection by Carl Jung, which I actually, it's one of my favorites by Carl Jung because it's a really good intro. It's like a biography it's like an autobiography by Jung, and it allows you to get really familiar with his work and the experiences. I think it helps to pace you for the more deep and esoteric, like intellectual and esoteric nature of his like hard work. The name of the book is Memories, Dreams, Reflections, and it's an autobiography of Jung. And he basically shares a lot of stories and experiences in his own spiritual journey. Trump, in his book How to Get Rich, talks about this, and he talks about Jung, and he talks about the persona, and he talks about the creation of a persona and the benefit of having a persona as like a mask to wear. I talk about this too, right? I mean, my dating stuff, 3 pillars of attraction. You have pre-selection, persona, personality. People who say don't have a persona, I mean, I don't think that they understand psychology well enough, and certainly not strategic aspects of interacting with people. But it's also, you have to have the personality healthy to balance that persona. Otherwise, the persona can take you over. Big arrest. I don't know if big arrests are going to happen pre-election. I don't know if the arrests themselves will happen pre-election. But here's an important point. I'm glad to hear, man. I'm glad to hear. Here's an important point. Okay. Notice that here's another midwit thing. Trump hasn't arrested these people. It's not going to happen. Think of what it would look like if Trump just went and said, "I'm going to arrest everybody. I'm going to use I'm going to go and I'm going to just arrest all my political opponents." You actually think that that's going to be well received? You have to break the social programming at least as much as possible. You have to break as many people as you can out of it, and then you have to make it seem like you're the victim and you're not doing it. That some impartial apparatus is doing it, and that you just want the truth. Exactly. That amazing point, man. Amazing point. They called him a fascist for years because he couldn't arrest them all. That's exactly right, because that was predictive programming. It was a way for them to insulate themselves. 100%, which is why he hasn't intervened in the cities being burned down. He's done like so much less than most other presidents would have done. He is actually the least involved president on a micro level that we've seen in ages. Libertarians should, if your libertarian isn't voting for Trump, then they have no relative sense of awareness, because Trump has probably been the most respected of states since anybody, like since century, maybe, long fucking time. So yeah, they did that stuff to insulate themselves because Trump couldn't arrest him, because then he'd be a fascist. So you have to take a very patient approach, because you don't want to give them exactly what they want, because they have a ton of people who are programmed to believe he's going to do something. But before the election, at this point, he's saying it over and over again, but he's not doing anything. He's saying it and he's not doing anything. And he's saying, and he's complaining. People are like, Trump looks weak. No. He could do it if he wanted to. He wants to look weak. Was it the art of war? Appear weak when you're strong. It's like classic art of war. Appear weak when you are strong. And so you have Trump saying he can't do anything about it. The justice system has to do something about it. This is out of control. I can't do anything. And so what does he do? He brings awareness to it, so the people demand it. The people demand justice. And then the people get the justice. And not only does that succeed in insulating him, but it succeeds in raising all of our agency. Because we have this passive role, like, he's got to save us, Trump's got to save us, or whatever. People say this stuff. No. We have to save ourselves. We have to demand it. We have to demand the declassification of JFK. We have to demand Russiagate. We have to demand all of these things. We have to demand 9/11. We demand it as the people. We demand it. We take back our power. He's giving us the opportunity to take back our power. That's what it is. Are you guys going to do it? Now is no longer the time to be in sphere programs. I mean, we shouldn't have been in it before, but really at this point, it's time to have a lot of courage, okay? You've been playing it cool for the last couple of months because you didn't want to be the guy who runs out and gets shot. We got a whole movement moving now, okay? Which is a good segue to Florida. I was just in Florida. There's still some stuff in the localities where they're trying to enforce masks, but broadly speaking, I mean, the mask rule is starting to break down. It's no longer functioning correctly. We have, and now, what is it? DeSantis, first he made the order about no one can be fined for not wearing a mask. No one can do anything about it, basically. And then he's basically said with the riots, it's like, I won't go through each of the individual details. You guys can find that. But he put out a directive basically fucking any rioter. Like, if you block traffic, felony. Bail is ridiculously high. If you participate in any of these things, felony. Minimum sentence, you're getting the maximum sentence and you're going to jail, right? Just throwing the hammer down on them, because you have this thing where it's like people would go out and they'd riot, and then if they got arrested, they would be released on no bail, which is what happens in corrupt places. DeSantis in Florida is against this. He's been making a bold push against it. And this is going to have to start to follow. I mean, you look at Murphy, this dumb fuck in New Jersey, right? Murphy wants to sue Trump for bringing COVID to the state. I mean, like, Like, you just got to be like this stuff. This is how desperate they are. They got nothing. They got nothing. Cuomo trying to get upset at Jews for participating in synagogues. They're fucked. There's no longer compliance going on. More and more. There's less, or rather I say less, there's less and less compliance. And that's the way it's got to go, guys. I'm not saying at the point where you want to go like crazy with this, like you're getting thrown off the flight if you take off, we're getting pretty close, more and more. I am no longer participating in any of the like sort of social distance stuff. I'm no longer doing any of it. Okay. I'm no longer going to participate in the big lie. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So we got some more stuff coming up. I think I'll cut it for here. We have just a couple little last things here. We had the VP debate, Susan Page, the debate moderator wrote Pelosi's biography. So there's a lot of corruption with that, a few other things. Derek Chauvin bond posted for 1 million. Maybe that's going to create some more riots. Who knows? Netflix indicted by a grand jury. Very interesting. But the last thing I want to leave you on is that China will pay. China's going to pay, guys. China's going to pay. And that dam, from what I understand, it's under the control of a Stuxnet-like virus. They're going to pay. We'll talk next time.